Hey everyone, Daniel and Alex here from IGN. Now, early today in London, Rockstar Games' parent company, Take-Two Interactive, filed a lawsuit against the BBC for trademark infringement based on the upcoming made-for-TV movie Game Changer, which stars Daniel Radcliffe and Bill Paxton. Now, what we're going to discuss is why we think they've brought that case against the BBC, and I think we've got some theories as to why that might be. But before we get onto that, I'm just going to briefly read some of the statement, which you can read in its entirety on IGN. Our goal is to assure that our trademarks are not misused in the BBC's pursuit of an unofficial depiction of purported events related to Rockstar Games. Skipping a bit. It's our obligation to protect our intellectual property, and unfortunately, in this case, litigation was necessary.
So it's worth pointing out that the lawsuit is for trademark infringement only, which presumably means that Rockstar want all traces of GTA taken out of the production rather than halting the production entirely.
Yeah, so everything here we're discussing is based on press releases from the BBC and stuff that's out there generally.
We didn't really know whether it was an association or it had the Rockstar seal of approval. Obviously not, as we found out today. And
well, it sounded like they've been trying to collaborate on the past. You know, from the Rockstar statement, again, we have attempted multiple times to resolve this matter. So maybe they've been working in the past, but it seems like they've reached an impasse and it's gone into production. Shooting started in April. Initially, the quotes that you have from the BBC make it sound like an inspirational story about the making of GTA.
Exactly. So according to the BBC press release that came out at the same time that Daniel Radcliffe was announced as playing as Sam Houser, it says, Grand Theft Auto is a triumph, and it was down to a bunch of British gaming geniuses who had known each other since school. And at the heart of it was GTA's creative mastermind, Sam Houser.
Yeah,
I'm up for that. I want to know the story behind that. That sounds good.
Yeah, and likewise, when the project was first announced, it was described as arguably the greatest British coding success story since Bletchley Park. So it's going right up there with the Enigma machine.
Exactly.
And it was supposed to be like the centerpiece in a series that's airing later in the year, around autumn or fall if you're in America, all about celebrating programming and what programming has given to the world. So you think it's going to be about, I don't know, DMA design, Rockstar North, the switch from like a top-down game to the 3D game that we know today, the one that takes $1 billion in a week. But now it seems like it's focusing more on legal disputes, a court case in the mid-2000s.
So again, that same release further down says, Game Changer tells the story of an extraordinary chapter in the history of this iconic game and reveals the major impact it has on our cultural landscape. So what it's basically focusing on is not really the story from inception through to where it is now, but very much the battle between Sam Houser, who's obviously the president of Rockstar, and Jack Thompson, who is the...
he's kind of a crusading moral activist, but he was a lawyer. He's now disbarred, and he brought several kind of court cases in America against GTA, and also other Rockstar games and other games in general, Bully and other games outside of Rockstar's.
Other forms of, like, you know, hip-hop, he's basically gone against everything.
He's Mary Whitehouse. But he like basically attacking these games and basically drawing causal connections between presentations of violence and real acts of violence.
Well, he called Grand Theft Auto 4 when it came out the greatest assault upon children in this country since polio. Obviously talking about the US there. So he's not a fan.
So it feels like
GTA.
this, which, you know, lots of people have brought cases against GTA. It feels like that's become, it feels like from the casting, Daniel Radcliffe, Sam Houser, Bill Paxton as Jack Thompson, it feels like the way they're describing and the way they're setting up is this kind of adversarial drama. Kind of almost like a Frost Nixon. And that's my inference. But in the BBC, it also says, at the vanguard of this crusade is the formidable campaigning lawyer Jack Thompson, a man determined to do whatever he can to stop the relentless rise of GTA. And I feel like this is what Rockstar is talking about. It's kind of this, is making this a small chapter in the story of GTA and making that the story that you're telling to this wider audience.
And I think that's the crucial part, is that there is a much bigger story to be told here. But, you know, let's say, I don't know, my cousin, for example, like that, who doesn't really know that much about games, his only relation to the story of GTA could then well just be this documentary. And I think if I was Rockstar, I'd be like, well, hang on, there's all this other cool stuff that, you know, maybe if they work together, they could tell that story. And I'd be much more interested in hearing that story.
Because there's two things here. Like, one, Jack Thompson has since been discredited. He's been disbarred. So what you're basing on how shaky is the truth behind the story you're presenting.
Yeah.
And also just kind of rolling it up into this series as Stranded Programming, celebrating programming.
Yeah.
When you're not, you're fixating on not the amazing story of success of GTA, but you're focusing on a more lurid and might perceive it to be a sexier story.
Yeah.
It's actually quite a sensational one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we think Rockstar is probably bringing this case against the BBC today.
Well, and I think without actual Rockstar's direct involvement, how true will this story be? We just don't know, because some of the rumours that I've seen is that it could potentially be based on Jacked, which is the book by David Kushner. But even that doesn't have interviews with current Rockstar people. It's kind of an unofficial story of the developer, and who knows whether it's true or not. We just don't know. But if I was Rockstar, I'd want to kind of get my part of the story out, and it feels like the BBC documentary, is only telling a small part.
So that's why we think Rockstar is probably bringing the case against the BBC today. For everything on the story as it progresses, stay right here on IGN.